is concerned. Dr. Mushendami, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good afternoon, Nina. Thank you.
Now, the repo rate has gone up yet once again. Was it something that was bound to happen? Please do give us your impression.
Thank you, Nina. To start with, of course, we have what we have actually seen with the Russian Ukraine war is actually central banks increasing their repo rates. But I have to put it in context as to why. Because of the reason to increase the repo rates worldwide, not only in Namibia, is actually due to contain the runaway inflation that have actually been caused by the oil prices as well as the food prices worldwide. Of course, you'll agree with me that we have actually seen quite an increase in terms of oil prices in Namibia as well as worldwide. And these have actually increased the levels of inflation. If I may be specific in Namibia, for example, if you would take the average inflation for last year up to July 2021, it stood at 3.5%. What we have now is the average inflation is standing at 5.3%. Now, if you were to look at the July inflation figures for 2022, it's presently standing at 6.8%. Now, if the central bank does not act, we would actually be in a position whereby inflation is going to rise continuously and have actually negative consequences on GDP growth. So what central banks are doing is actually to increase the repo rates with the intention and the objective to contain the levels of inflation. Thank you.
And of course, you know, with all of this, consumers are concerned about the impact that it would have on them. So what can be done locally to cushion the impact on consumers? What would your word of advice be to them in terms of how they can weather this storm going forward?
Like I've said, I think the concern really, to me, from where I sit, is not really the repo rate, because where we sit, the repo rates are still low in Namibia. For example, if I will give you a short historical background, we had repo rates of as high as 21.25% in 1998. Around 2017, the repo rates were around 7%. And before COVID, the repo rate in December 2019 was actually standing at 6.650. Now, the repo rate that we have now, as of today, of 5.5%, to me is still very low compared to historical levels. But we need to put it in context to say the issue from where we are seated as a central bank, the issue that we are trying to contain is the inflation, which if the central bank doesn't do anything, if the central bank does not act with its policy tools, it's going to affect the consumers more than we actually think. So from where I sit is to contextualize and also that is the view of the central bank to say the major issue that we are seated with as Namibia is not really the repo rate because it's still accommodative. It's still low by historical standards. Our main concern is inflation, which tend to be running away. And that is really the concern that we have as a central bank. And that's what we want to contain going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mushendami, as we round off our conversation, just final remarks this evening from you.
Thank you. I've talked about the concern of the high inflation, but going forward, what we see as a central bank, we projecting that inflation by the end of the year is going to be around 5.8%. That is, and we project that hopefully next year it's going to come down much further. Of course, what we see initiatives such as the Black Sea Initiative. Actually, this is actually an initiative whereby ships from Ukraine are actually given passage so that it helps up with the commodity prices that have actually increased. So if shipments from that area, the Black Sea is actually improved. Of course, we expect supplies to be, supply to be less constrained or improved, and hence inflation would actually come down. Another initiative that we see is actually by the OPEC Plus, which is a cartel which is regulating oil prices. They have actually set to increase the production of oil. That, taking into account that world demand is projected to be a little bit slower, we expect the supply of oil to increase, and hence that will actually dampen the price of oil. So those two factors combined, we expect it to have actually a dampening effect on inflation going forward in the medium to long term. Thank you.
Dr. Mushendami, thank you so much for your time and joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you, Nina.
Well, we are going to take a short break. Let's take a look at our further global news roundup headlines, and we come back.